We all know that mountains are just geological formations, masses of rock shaped by volcanic activity and erosion over millions of years. But what if I told you that beneath one of California's most iconic peaks lies evidence of underground cities, strange lights that defy physics, and disappearances that no search team can explain? Doesn't make sense, does it? Yet for over a century, Mount Shasta has stood at the center of mysteries that refuse rational explanation. From Native American legends of spirit worlds beneath the earth to modern hikers who vanish without leaving a single footprint, this mountain keeps secrets that challenge our understanding of what's possible. Today, we're uncovering 7 dark secrets hidden inside Mount Shasta, mysteries that still baffle experts and draw seekers from around the world. In 1904, a prospector named J.C. Brown claimed to have discovered something impossible while exploring the mountain's remote northeastern face. According to his detailed account given to the Stockton Record newspaper, Brown stumbled upon a hidden tunnel carved into solid rock at an elevation of nearly 7,000 feet. The entrance, he said, was partially concealed by centuries of rockfall and vegetation, nearly invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. What he found inside defied everything he thought he knew about California's history. Brown described descending through a passage so precisely cut that it seemed machine-made, the walls smooth as glass, angling steadily downward into the mountain's heart. After walking for what he estimated as 3 miles, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. The air was cool, dry, and carried a faint metallic smell he couldn't identify. His lantern revealed carved walls covered in symbols that matched no known native language, geometric patterns interlocking with representations of celestial bodies and strange humanoid figures with elongated skulls. But what stopped him cold were the artifacts. Brown reported finding copper shields inscribed with unfamiliar writing, stone tablets stacked in careful rows, and most disturbing of all, mummified remains arranged in what appeared to be ceremonial positions. The bodies, he claimed, were of unusual height, some reaching 7 feet or more, with skulls that suggested a different anatomical structure than modern humans. He documented everything in a leather journal, making sketches and measurements by lantern light. When Brown emerged days later, he kept his discovery quiet for years, fearing ridicule or claim jumpers. But in 1934, he organized an expedition of 80 people from Stockton, promising to lead them to the underground city. The group gathered at a predetermined meeting point near the mountain's base on June 19, 1934. Brown never arrived. He vanished completely, and with him went the only detailed directions to the tunnel entrance. No trace of him was ever found, not his camp, his journal, or his body. Search teams combed the area for weeks but found nothing except conflicting stories from locals who claimed to have seen a man matching Brown's description boarding a train, heading south days earlier. Yet his belongings, including mining equipment and personal effects, remained in his rented room, untouched. To this day, dozens of expeditions have searched for Brown's lost city, but the entrance he described has never been found. What makes the story so compelling is the specificity of his account, the detailed descriptions that match geological features known to exist within volcanic mountains, the precision of his location markers, and the fact that he had nothing obvious to gain from fabricating such an elaborate hoax. Some geologists suggest he may have discovered one of Mount Shasta's many lava tubes, natural tunnels formed by flowing lava that can extend for miles underground. But lava tubes don't explain the carved symbols, the artifacts, or the mummified remains. And they certainly don't explain why Brown would organize a large expedition only to disappear before it began. His case remains one of Mount Shasta's most enduring mysteries, a gateway into the mountain's hidden depths that opened once and never again. But Brown's tunnel isn't the only thing hidden beneath the mountain. Long before European settlers arrived, the Modoc, Shasta, and Wintu peoples spoke of Mount Shasta as a sacred site where the physical and spiritual worlds intersected. Their oral traditions describe vast underground realms accessible through hidden entrances scattered across the mountain slopes. The Modoc called these places the lodges of the sky spirits, believing that powerful beings dwelt beneath the summit, emerging only at night as glowing orbs of light. The Wintu told of a great city beneath the mountain where the ancestors of all people once lived before climbing to the surface world through a hole at the peak. But these weren't simple campfire stories, but central elements of their cosmology, passed down through generations with remarkable consistency. When anthropologist Jaime de Angulo studied Shasta area tribes in the 1920s, elders described specific locations where the veil between worlds was thin, places where offerings were left, and where no one entered after dark. One elder drew a map showing 7 entry points circling the mountain at different elevations, each marked by distinctive rock formations. D'Angulo noted that several of these locations corresponded with caves and fissures known to local guides, though none had been thoroughly explored due to superstition and fear. What makes these legends more than folklore is how they align with modern reports. Since the early 1900s, hikers and climbers have reported strange phenomena at elevations above 10,000 feet. Lights that move through solid rock, sounds of machinery humming deep underground, areas where compasses spin wildly and electronic devices fail without explanation. In 1932, a climbing party from the Sierra Club documented a vertical shaft they discovered at 11,200 feet, partially hidden behind a false summit. They lowered a weighted rope 300 feet without hitting bottom before their equipment failed. When they tried to mark the location for a return expedition, they found that their photographs came out blank despite functioning cameras, and that their written coordinates led them to solid rock face on their next visit, as if the mountain had closed itself. The shaft, whatever it was, had vanished. By the 1950s, Mount Shasta had attracted a different kind of attention. Guy Ballard, founder of the I Am Activity movement, claimed to have encountered a tall, robed figure named Saint Germain while hiking near the mountain in 1930. According to Ballard, Saint Germain revealed that beneath Mount Shasta lay Telos, an ancient city inhabited by survivors of Lemuria, a lost continent said to have sunk into the Pacific Ocean thousands of years ago. These underground dwellers, Ballard insisted, possessed advanced technology and spiritual knowledge, emerging occasionally to observe the surface world before retreating back into the depths. Ballard's story might be dismissed as pure fantasy except for one troubling detail: other witnesses. Over the following decades, dozens of unrelated individuals reported encounters with tall, unusually dressed figures near the mountain who spoke in archaic dialects or not at all, who moved with fluid grace despite the difficult terrain, and who vanished when approached. In 1972, a forest ranger named Douglas Freeman was patrolling a restricted research area on the northern slope when he observed a man in flowing white robes standing motionless at the edge of a ravine. Freeman called out, identifying himself, but received no response. As he drew closer, he noticed the figure seemed to shimmer slightly, as if seen through heat waves, despite the cold November air. When Freeman was within 50 feet, the figure turned, revealing a face that Freeman later described as ageless and peaceful, but somehow wrong, like a painting of a person rather than an actual human. The figure raised one hand in what might have been a greeting or a warning, then stepped backward off the cliff edge and disappeared. Freeman rushed to the spot, expecting to find a body on the rocks below, but saw nothing. No disturbance in the snow, no blood, no evidence anyone had fallen. His radio had stopped working, and when he tried to photograph the site with his department-issued camera, the film came out completely black. He filed an official report describing the incident, which was quietly archived and forgotten until researchers obtained it through a Freedom of Information request in 2015. Freeman never spoke publicly about what he saw, but in private correspondence with a colleague he wrote, "I saw something on that mountain that I can't explain and don't want to understand. Whatever is in there, under the ice and rock, we're not meant to find it." That sentiment echoes in another chilling mystery: the disappearances that plague Mount Shasta with disturbing regularity. Every year, hikers, climbers, and adventurers vanish on the mountain. Most are eventually found, victims of weather, falls, or simple disorientation. but a significant number are never found, and the circumstances of their disappearances follow patterns that defy conventional explanation. Take the case of Carl Landers, an experienced mountaineer who vanished in June 1997. Landers was climbing with a partner, ascending the Avalanche Gulch route toward the summit. At approximately 12,800 feet, Landers stopped to adjust his crampons while his partner continued ahead. When the partner looked back 2 minutes later, Landers was gone. The weather was clear, visibility unlimited. There was nowhere to hide on that exposed slope. A massive search involving over 100 volunteers found nothing. No tracks leading away, no signs of a fall, no equipment left behind. It was as if Landers had been plucked from the mountainside by an invisible hand. 3 years later, another solo hiker disappeared from nearly the same location. Jennifer Wilkes, a 29-year-old from Portland, called her boyfriend from the 12,000-foot level at 2:47 p.m., saying she could see the summit and expected to reach it within an hour. She sounded excited, describing the view as unreal. That was her last communication. When she failed to return, search teams found her phone exactly where she must have made the call, lying on a flat rock with 47 battery remaining. But Jennifer herself was nowhere to be found. Her pack, sleeping bag, and climbing gear were discovered scattered along a 200-yard stretch of trail, items she would never have abandoned willingly. Most disturbing was a series of photographs found on her camera. The last images show her smiling at the summit marker, time-stamped 3:22 p.m. But after that, 4 more photos were taken over the next 30 minutes, all completely black, as if shot in total darkness or with the lens covered. The final photo, taken at 3:51 p.m., shows a blurred close-up of stone or rock, too out of focus to identify, with what appears to be artificial light reflecting off a smooth surface. No one can explain how Jennifer went from the summit in bright daylight to somewhere completely dark in less than half an hour, or where those final photographs were taken. Search and rescue teams have documented over 30 unexplained disappearances on Mount Shasta since 1950, a number that doesn't include hikers who were eventually found, but reported strange experiences. Multiple survivors have described identical phenomena: sudden, overwhelming compulsions to leave established trails and walk toward specific areas, feelings of being watched by something massive and patient, and time distortions where minutes passed like hours or entire hours vanished in moments. One woman rescued after being missing for 3 days insisted she had only been gone for a few hours and couldn't explain how her watch had stopped at the exact moment she left the trail. The rangers who found her noted that her clothes and gear showed 3 days of exposure and wear, but she had no memory of where she'd been or what she'd done. When psychologists evaluated her, they found no evidence of deception or mental illness, just genuine confusion and a growing sense that something had happened to her that her mind refused to remember. These psychological effects point to another of Mount Shasta's secrets: the strange lights that appear with unsettling frequency. For over 150 years, witnesses have reported seeing unexplained luminous phenomena around the mountain, particularly near the summit and along the tree line at night. Early settlers called them Shasta lights, describing glowing orbs that moved with apparent intelligence, sometimes hovering for minutes before shooting upward at impossible speeds or vanishing into solid rock. In September 1953, a U.S. Air Force radar station temporarily positioned on nearby Mount Eddy detected multiple fast-moving objects circling Mount Shasta's peak. Operators tracked 4 distinct returns moving in coordinated patterns at speeds alternating between stationary and over 2,000 miles per hour. When fighter jets were scrambled to investigate, the objects descended below the tree line and disappeared from radar before the aircraft arrived. The incident was classified, but documents declassified in 1994 confirmed that the objects were solid, reflecting radar in ways consistent with metallic craft, and that their movements defied known physics. One radar operator later described them as playing with us, showing they could be seen when they wanted and disappear when they chose. civilian sightings continued. In 1987, a family camping at Panther Meadows watched a large bright light emerge from the mountain's southern face at approximately 9:30 p.m. The light, which they described as star-bright but close, moved slowly upward, tracing the contour of the slope, before stopping and hovering above the summit for nearly 10 minutes. Through binoculars, the father saw what appeared to be a structured craft, disc-shaped with a ring of smaller lights around its perimeter. Then, without warning, it shot straight up and vanished, leaving the family shaking and struggling to comprehend what they'd witnessed. They reported it to local authorities, who noted their account matched dozens of similar reports filed over the previous decade. Modern researchers equipped with sensitive cameras and measurement equipment have documented the lights repeatedly. In 2011, a team from the Mutual UFO Network set up monitoring stations at 3 locations around the mountain. Over 2 weeks, they recorded 18 separate light phenomena, capturing several on infrared cameras. Analysis of the footage showed the lights emitting radiation across multiple wavelengths, including frequencies that don't correspond to any known natural or human-made source. The objects demonstrated flight characteristics, instant acceleration, sharp angle turns, and the ability to phase in and out of visibility that remain unexplained by conventional science. Some researchers propose the lights are related to piezoelectric effects, electricity generated by stress in quartz-rich rock. But this doesn't explain their coordinated movements or their tendency to respond to human presence. On multiple occasions, witnesses have reported the lights seeming to notice them, changing course or behavior when observed. In one documented incident, a solo hiker shining his flashlight at a hovering orb watched it flash in response, then descend toward him before he fled in terror. Perhaps even more unsettling than the lights are the sounds. Deep beneath Mount Shasta, something hums. The phenomenon was first scientifically documented in 1976 when seismologists installing monitoring equipment detected low-frequency vibrations unlike anything in their experience. The sound, too deep for human hearing but recordable on sensitive instruments, pulses rhythmically from somewhere beneath the mountain's core. It's not related to volcanic activity. The volcano has been dormant for over 200 years, and it doesn't correlate with seismic events or weather patterns. It simply exists, a steady thrumming heartbeat from miles underground. Researchers have attempted to map the source using triangulation, but the results are nonsensical. The vibrations seem to originate from multiple points simultaneously, as if whatever is generating them exists in several locations at once, or occupies a space larger than current measurements can properly define. One geophysicist who studied the phenomenon for years before retiring described it as acoustic architecture, something built to produce that specific frequency, not a natural formation. When asked what could create such an effect, he had no answer. Local guides and longtime residents have their own theories. Some believe the humming is the machinery of Telos, the underground city, still operating after thousands of years. Others suggest it's the mountain itself, a living entity breathing beneath its stone skin. The more scientifically minded propose undiscovered geothermal vents or underground water flow through unusual rock formations. But none of these explanations account for the rhythmic precision of the sound or its unchanging frequency over decades. Whatever is generating the hum beneath Mount Shasta, it's been there longer than human memory and shows no signs of stopping. Standing on the slopes today, watching the sunset paint the snow-covered peak in shades of gold and crimson, it's easy to understand why this mountain has inspired such intense fascination. It rises alone, massive and pristine, dominating the landscape for 100 miles in every direction. But beneath that beauty lies something else, tunnels that open and close like doors. Cities rumored but never confirmed, lights that defy physics, disappearances that follow patterns too precise to be coincidence, and a sound that suggests something massive and patient dwelling in the deep places of the earth. Scientists continue to study Mount Shasta, bringing increasingly sophisticated equipment to map its interior and solve its mysteries. Yet for all our technology, we're no closer to understanding what truly lies beneath that pristine summit. The mountain keeps its secrets, revealing them only in fragments, hints, glimpses that raise more questions than they answer. Perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all, that in an age when satellites map every inch of Earth's surface and technology peers into the heart of distant galaxies, Mount Shasta remains unknown. Its hidden chambers, if they exist, remain undiscovered. Its lights continue to dance across the slopes, mocking our attempts at explanation. And its victims, those who walked into its forests and tunnels and never returned, remain lost in a place that exists on every map but defies all understanding. If you're fascinated by places where the impossible becomes reality and ancient mysteries refuse to be solved, subscribe to continue exploring the world's darkest secrets. And maybe, just maybe, stay on the marked trails if you ever visit Mount Shasta. Because some doors, once opened, lead to places we were never meant to find. 7 secrets hidden inside a mountain that refuses to give them up. 7 mysteries that remind us how little we truly know about the world we think we've conquered.